welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here on Thursday. I don't know if you know this, but I spent a lot of time in Texas. I am an immigrant, and I came to this country through Texas. So every time there's a story that's out of Texas, it's kind of like, it feels a little like home. So I pay very close attention. And when Suzanne Simpson went missing, it caught my eye. Everything about her case just seemed so weird, right? Like, first of all, the fight she's having with her husband outside the night before that a neighbor sees, that was weird. The fact that she's got 4 kids that she dotes over, and suddenly they haven't seen hide nor hair of her, that's weird. The fact that that husband of hers there in the orange jumpsuit, the fact that he was kind of rough a lot, witnesses saying he was long very unkind to her, that seemed weird. But the stuff that we reported on last night, the stuff that was in his truck, the stuff seen on video that sure looked like he had a body in the truck, that went beyond weird. That got me angry. Because I feel like she's a bit of a Texas sister, right? The truth is, she has her own sister. And I'm sure her own sister is a hell of a lot more angry than I am. So is Brad, her husband, the killer? Because they haven't found a body. But they no longer think it's a missing case. They think it's a murder case. I'm going to talk to her sister exclusively on this program in a moment and find out how those 4 kids are doing and who's going to look after them. Because dad is in jail and mom still hasn't come home. That's coming up. Also, I'm not over Liam Payne. I know it's a bit much, but I like his music. I like Liam Payne, and I know a lot of people do. I'm not alone. And when the unbelievable news came that he fell from a 3rd floor balcony out of a hotel and died, it was just kind of like shattering. Like, did he do it to himself? Did someone do it to him? Was it a terrible accident? And when we started to hear about the arrests, we started to get a picture. And speaking of pictures, turns out there is quite a picture that has emerged in the way of a video. I'm going to walk you through this video from just before Liam died. And I'm going to show you a couple of clues that might be telling us a heck of a lot more than we've known up to now. But that's him, just hours before he died. And there's someone else in that video too. So that's coming too. And hey, guess what? Maybe this is not a surprise. But last night, we had a 1-day trial and we were waiting for deliberations to start. Shawn Williams. I always remind you who Shawn Williams is that guy. That beat up face. Probably a lot of that came from like a canine that arrested him because he was on the run and super dirty when they got him at a 7-Eleven. That's how they got him, right there. And they got him for good reason. He was on the run for days and days and days after busting out the windows of a prison van, taking him to another jail. And the driver and the guard didn't even notice. Let's talk about that for a minute later. Anyway, look at that face real close. And I'm sorry if it's not easy to do, because for some of you it may be horrifying. And when I say that, there may be people watching tonight who do not even know that they are a victim of that man, because it took a jury 25 minutes to convict him of having pictures of raping women and their children. Yeah, it's him. Him on the videos, raping women and their little children. When I say little, I mean 7, 4, and 9 months old. And not just a little rapey, a lot. But there's 52 more unconscious women on videos that police are trying to find. Is it possible it could be you? Is it possible it could be someone you know? Because this is where we're at with this guy. It is not over yet. But I want to start with something else entirely. Like 39 days is a hell of a long time to have no idea where your family member is. To be in touch one day and then completely in the dark the next. And all the days after that, too. As missing persons cases go, 39 days is not a record, but police in Texas had a pretty strong feeling early on that the search for Suzanne Simpson would not end the way her family hoped. And in fact, it still hasn't ended. Hasn't ended at all. We don't know where she is. She's not been seen, alive or dead, since October 6th, late at night, when a neighbor says he saw her and her husband, Brad, fighting physically outside their home near San Antonio. As you may know, Brad Simpson is now charged with Suzanne's murder. And if you were here last night, you heard some of the stunning evidence that police have on him, even though they have not found her body. Here's how the surprise murder charge was announced last Friday.
Yesterday, the Almost Park Police Department, along with the Texas Rangers, have charged Brad Chandler Simpson with murder in the death of his wife, Suzanne Clark Simpson. We realize that this doesn't bring closure to Suzanne's family, but we hope it will allow them to enter the next phase of their grieving process with more clarity. This thorough and tireless investigation has been conducted in efforts to find justice for Suzanne and her family.
Her family, because her family loves her. Every one of them, the kids, the siblings, her mom. And a member of that family is my guest tonight. Suzanne's sister, Teresa Clark, joins me exclusively in her first national TV interview. Teresa, thank you so much for being on. I can't imagine what you and the rest of your family are going through at this time. It's really unbearable reading through the details of the affidavit, of the evidence they have. How are you guys doing?
I guess the best way to explain it is that all we can do is process it as soon as we hear about it. And the first time I heard about it, I was on a trip coming back from Thailand, and I was in Hong Kong, and because of the time difference, it was on a Tuesday, and this took place on a Sunday. And I knew as soon as I heard that my sister had been missing for 16 hours that she was no longer with us, because we have lost my sister at Disney, for an hour or two. We've lost her in South Texas for an hour or two. But my sister has always been at home, in her bed with her husband, with her children. She has a lot of responsibilities, and she doesn't go missing for, more than an hour or two. So I knew right away that my sister was no longer with us as soon as I got the message.
I suppose the rest of us, Teresa, were not surprised to hear murder charges levied at her husband, given all the stories that we were hearing leading up to this incredible court document. Were you and your family surprised?
I was never surprised, because the minute I got the message, I just knew that my sister was gone and that she was in heaven with my father and my grandma and my grandpa. And so then I actually thought it was this very cut and dry situation, just because I was, on the other side of the world. And so from my understanding, they had this fight at the Argyle Club. They came home. The neighbors witnessed it. And I just assumed that, they had figured the whole thing out that night. And so I didn't fully understand the severity of the situation. But once I understood that, the children hadn't spoken to her in 16 hours, that's when I just knew, okay, she's already in heaven. That's just all there is to it.
So this, and that's a hard thing for a lot of families to come to grips with when one of their loved ones is missing. There is that hope. There's that hope.
No, there's no hope.
But no hope.
There's no hope.
Your whole family feels that way?
No. We knew immediately. I'm in Thailand and Hong Kong. I knew immediately. There's not like, what kind of hope is there? There's no hope. She's in heaven. That's all there is to it. It's not a hope situation.
Can I ask you, when you read through the details in the court affidavit, the evidence so far that they have gathered on Brad, Simpson, my jaw dropped. Did you have a reaction one way or the other?
I can't really speak about that specifically. It's my understanding that y'all reviewed that last night. And, my job is to protect our families and the children, and for people to understand that we know that Suzanne, is no longer with us, obviously. And I do understand that her husband, tried to petition to see the children, and one of his statements was that she's in Austin hanging out with her Chi Omega sisters. But the thing is that all my sister's best friends, they're not Chi Omega. She has a group of friends that they've all grown up together, they've had children together, and they're not Chi Omega. So I know my sisters not in Austin at the Chi Omega house, because she has a house that is in Almas Park, and that's where her children are, and she would be at the house with her children, making them breakfast, getting them to school, picking them up, organizing activities, because she was an incredible mom and an incredible wife.
And her oldest is about 20, her youngest about 5. What's happening with those kids, Teresa? Who's looking after the ones that still need looking after?
Yeah, we have to keep that confidential, but I can just tell you that between our families, we have an incredible support system, and we don't have any concerns for the children. Their lives are going to remain as normal as possible, considering the circumstances, and so that is not, a concern at all.
Tell me a little bit about Brad. I learned something today that I was unaware of, that Brad and Suzanne had been together almost their entire lives. I think she met him when she was 13, so you also, as Suzanne's sister, have presumably known him almost your whole adult life. Was he always a problem? Was he ever a problem?
No.
Did things change with him?
No, he's never been a problem. First of all, let me just clarify, we have met the Simpsons through my dad practiced law and through a mutual friend of ours that also practiced law. We're neighbors. And so at the time that we met, my little sister was actually the same age as her youngest daughter, so she would not remember that we met. And as I got older in high school, I was really good friends with his friends, and I used to drive them around. And then in college, my sister met him through a sorority fraternity situation, and they didn't rush into anything. They dated for 10 years, and we all had, great times and great days in Austin. They moved to Africa together, and we all went out to visit, and I have fond memories, and we've celebrated the holidays. There have been many joyous occasions, and he was an incredible father. He was an incredible husband. Our family's very religious, I guess you'd say Christian, and we're very involved in Bible study fellowship. And he would do Suzanne's Bible study fellowship for her. And so he's always just been, an amazing dad, an amazing person. And so it's just my understanding he's gotten more and more controlling, recently, I guess. And, this is not something that just happened overnight. This obviously is a progression of something that took place. But, when I look at how many years I've known him, yes, I've seen him lose his temper one time in all those years. And, just because you see somebody lose their temper one time, that doesn't necessarily make you think that there's something wrong with them.
I think your mom mentioned something about alcohol maybe being a problem. Do you see this as part of the narrative of what might have gone wrong in recent days, months, and years?
Honestly, I don't agree with that. I just feel like, we all grew up together, we all partied together, we all had a good time together, and I don't think that you can blame alcohol on a situation like this because, a lot of people drink alcohol, and they certainly don't have a situation like this happen where they have a fight in front of a neighbor. And, if the neighbor didn't just watch this and observe it and had just called 911, it would have been a totally different situation. There was, some time that lapsed that didn't make it easier for us to locate her, just to figure out the specifics. And even if somebody at the Argyle had mentioned it to the Almas Park police and just said, hey, by the way, maybe you might want to just drop into the Simpsons house. The Almas Park police has been by the house just casually. That's kind of what they do anyways on a friendly basis. So I just sort of feel like there was a lot of different things that happened that evening. And I would not, after reading the affidavit, blame that on alcohol.
Can I ask you about Brad's family? Because typically when this sort of a circumstance arises, a defendant's family is supportive. Many will go on television saying you got the wrong guy. That doesn't seem to feel like the situation with Brad's family. This is his brother, I believe his name is Barton, talking to the press before his brother was charged with murder. Take a listen.
The situation is heartbreaking for us, but it brings some peace to our family knowing that the authorities have gathered enough evidence to move forward with charges. It is our sincere hope and prayer that Brad will find the compassion and courage to end his family's suffering by cooperating with the authorities to help us find his wife.
Teresa, that it was so surprising to see his brother say these things. I'm going to ask you outright, do you believe that Brad murdered your sister?
I mean, I could never say that just because I feel very uncomfortable to say anything that would be not a kind thing to say, so to speak. I think it's pretty obvious after reading the affidavit yesterday that the police have gathered enough evidence, and it's been outlined very specifically in too many details that I would ever want to read or know about. I was a little disappointed personally because I was under the understanding that they were going to keep that sealed for 30 days and maybe another 30 days. And I wish that our families would have been able to get through the holidays without maybe knowing more details. But at the end of the day, there's been a lot of pressure put on that his bonds were set too high. And I guess they just felt like the more transparency they had, the better. And I guess also, too, when, your wife goes missing, your first inclination would be to call the police and cooperate with the police and make public statements and try to find her. And, there was a complete lack of connection of any type of concern that she's missing. Furthermore, as we read in the affidavit, but just the fact that after I think you said 37 or 38 days, I've been counting too, and to say she's in Austin is just ludicrous. No mother goes to Austin and doesn't communicate with her children, her sister, her husband, her mother, her in-laws, her clients, her hairdresser, her banker. I mean, she was immediately gone after Sunday night.
Those are the things that would lead most family members to immediately suspect strongly that the husband was the killer. You're very charitable in how you're answering my questions, and I'm wondering if your mother, Suzanne's mother as well, feels the same way, especially after reading that Brad was in a truck filled with what looked like a figure covered in a tarp, an ice chest, bleach, and it just looked extremely suspicious, the activities the day that she disappeared. What does your mom think?
I mean, it's been very difficult for her to process and accept because, we've had a pretty incredible life. And, of course, nobody wants anything more than for children to have happily, married parents that love and care and protect you, which is the type of mother and father that I've had growing up, and it's the type of mother and father that Brad's had growing up, and it's the type of siblings that he has as well. And so, all my mom can do is just try to understand the circumstances, and so I try to explain them to her every day. And we did have a 3-way call with her yesterday with one of Suzanne's best friends because we are trying to help her understand just so she can move forward and also have closure in the situation, just what the reality is. But, it is the holidays, and it's going to be a difficult holiday, and I would have been much happier if they would have not opened that until after the holidays personally.
Teresa, I am sending you all our prayers and love to you and your mom and to your sister's children and everyone else who's been so deeply affected by this tragedy. Thank you for being so measured and for thinking of us and talking to us. And I hope you get better answers, different answers, and some kind of closure at some point. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. And my goal is just that we bring her mother home and that we can, have a celebration of life and just lay her to rest with the love and respect that she deserves instead of having something where we're just keep trying to find something that is not happening for us, even though we know she's in heaven with our family.
It's the very least that you all deserve. God bless you and your family, Teresa.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Coming up after the break, we have a brand new look into Liam Payne's final hours in Argentina, and it comes from video that was recorded just 3 hours before he fell to his death from a hotel balcony. One Direction fans are shocked by what the pictures show, but who is the hotel bellman seen in the video? And what was he doing on the tapes? That's coming up next.
Home shot.
Star Liam Payne fell from a hotel balcony in Buenos Aires last month. Most people had the same question. What in God's name happened? But piece by piece, this puzzle is actually starting to take shape. First came the news that he had a cocktail of drugs in his system when he died. And next were the reports of the wild partying in his hotel room. And then just a week ago, the bombshell arrests of 3 people accused of supplying the drugs that the local prosecutors say led to Liam's death. Those 3 suspects have not been identified yet by the authorities, but they have been described. They say that the first one is a friend who was with Liam Payne every single day that he was in Argentina, and they have charged him with a weird kind of charge that says you abandoned him. The second person is a drug dealer who is charged with supplying unspecified drugs to Liam. That happened apparently twice on October 14th, and that's 2 days before Liam died. And then there's the third person, hotel bellman. And that person is accused of supplying Liam with cocaine twice during his stay, including the day that he died. And tonight we have new video that appears to show that bellman interacting with the singer just hours before the fatal fall from the balcony. It is hotel surveillance video, and it was recorded at just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:04 to be exact. Police have not officially said that the man in the video is the bellman that they arrested, but hotel sources have confirmed that it is him, and they confirmed it to TMZ. Incidentally, it was TMZ that got their hands on this video. You can see here that the bellman is stacking chairs in the basement of the hotel with some other staffers down there. The elevator door opens up, and then Liam and the bellman slap hands, at which point Liam leans out the elevators and they exchange words. And then Liam gets back into the elevator, and the bellman walks through a door. The police sources told TMZ that the bellman allegedly delivered cocaine to Payne's room, and it was contained in Dove soap boxes. Authorities say that Liam also had alcohol and prescription drugs in his system at the time of his death. I'm joined now by someone who knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. It is Perez Hilton. He's a celebrity blogger and podcaster and founder of the extremely popular PerezHilton.com. Perez, it's really amazing, isn't it, to be able to see this video and know it's just 3 hours before Liam died. But what do you think the video really tells us?
Well, I think the video establishes how quickly things turned after that moment, because at 2 p.m., he appears to be behaving normally based on that short snippet that we saw. And then, according to people that were staying at the hotel, shortly thereafter, something happened and his entire demeanor changed. He ended up spending a lot of time in the hotel lobby, allegedly passed out with a whiskey bottle, and this one friend whom has spoken to the media and identified himself. His name is Roger. He denies that he perceived Liam to be in a danger to himself. That's why he left. But some might describe what happened in that short 3-hour window as a binge. And what we do know is we've seen photos of his hotel room, and they were, there was a lot of devastation there. He destroyed the TV. It was a violent scene.
So does it seem, as you look at the, it's not easy to make it out, but it is clear once the authorities identify who's who. Does it seem as though Liam is seeking out the employee? Because after all, who goes to the basement of the hotel where the chairs are being stacked?
Yeah, it's clear that they had a familiarity, and I don't believe an exchange happened in this moment. It was very quick, but it was more of a communication, which I do find telling. I would imagine that Liam probably had, as with the other person who also has identified themselves, this one, the hotel worker, has not spoken to any media. Another person allegedly charged by authorities in Buenos Aires is a waiter at a restaurant that met Liam at the beginning of October. He says he did not supply Liam with drugs, but they did engage in drug use together. He already had it, so it's possible he had gotten it from this hotel worker. And I still think there's a lot of questions that remain, and I think his family is pushing for even more answers, and hopefully we'll get that, when these three men go to trial.
Yeah, without question. And I don't know if we will, because it's Argentinian law. I don't know how much they release. I don't know how transparent the system is there. I do want to ask you this, and I don't know if you know the answer. I found it really interesting that apparently the bellman delivered these Dove soap boxes to Liam's room twice with cocaine. These are the allegations, right? That there's cocaine in the Dove soap boxes, and that happened twice. And it made me wonder, is that a thing? Like, is it a celebrity thing that you get soap delivered to your room and hotel employees just know, and you just know it comes in a soap box? Or is this something that's unique to this situation?
It's definitely something unique to this situation, but I live in Las Vegas now, and it's pretty much known that if you are an A-lister, you can get whatever you want here. Obviously, it's not something that's advertised, but the same is true all over the world. A-listers can get whatever they want. Money equals access to things that maybe you shouldn't even have access to, things that are illegal. As was also previously reported, he spent time that same day, the day that he died, with two women who were escorts. And allegedly that was facilitated by this one worker at the hotel.
I think there's so much more. I also want to know why Liam's girlfriend apparently left. It's fascinating stuff. We got to stay in touch on this one, because I feel like there's more to come. The shoe is going to drop for sure. Thank you, Perez. Always good to have you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too. All right, coming up in just a moment, who says the wheels of justice turn slowly? A guy in Tennessee just found out that he's probably headed to prison for the rest of his life, and it only took a jury 25 minutes. 25 minutes. That is what raping someone on video will get you, especially when that someone is unconscious and just 9 months old. You heard me. Raping a 9-month-old on video. And by the way, the cops say that this guy probably raped 50 more unconscious women on video, women who have no idea that it even happened to them. Is it at all possible someone watching right now could be one of them? All the details of where, when, and who might be most likely to be on those videos coming up next. I get serious with you for a minute. I have a picture, and I want you to take a really long, hard look at the picture. That guy, the mugshot. That is not a good-looking face, I'll tell you that, with all the cuts and the scratches and everything. But I need you to imagine something. I need you to imagine him cleaned up, in decent clothes, expensive clothes. And here's the question. Did you ever party with him? Do you know anybody who might have partied with this man? No judgment here, none. Because he wasn't always a beaten-down loser in jail scrubs. He actually used to be a pretty well-off business owner in Johnson City, Tennessee. And the truth be told, he could have been in party mode anywhere in the United States. But does Johnson City ring any bells for you? If you answered yes, or even maybe, or even if you think he looks familiar, you or someone you know might actually be the victim of a crime, and it's a bad one. Because his name is Shawn Williams, and he is a very, very bad man. And don't be too quick to shake your head either, because most of his victims had absolutely no idea they were victims, because they were unconscious when he had his way with them and videotaped it for his personal collection of rape porn. You might remember Shawn Williams from the manhunt that we covered last year, when he broke out of a jail van without the driver or the guard even noticing. What? the guy who was wanted for the videotaped rapes of more than 50 unconscious women. He was convicted this morning, P.S., on 3 federal counts of enticing a minor to engage in sexually explicit conduct for the purposes of child pornography. It's a long charge, but the deliberation wasn't. The videos in the case were appalling. The jurors were forced to watch him raping mothers and their babies. Shawn Williams is on camera raping unconscious women and their unconscious children, aged 7, 4, and 9 months old. 9 months old. So maybe it's really no surprise that a jury deliberated all of 25 minutes after a one-day trial and found him guilty across the board. It seems that was Shawn Williams' MO, drugging his victims and raping them on camera and saving the videos on flash drives, which leads me back to you. He has yet to face charges for most of the rapes, the 52 unconscious victims who were found on those flash drives. And it is quite possible that's because cops just don't know who many of the women are. Could somebody watching tonight be one of them? I'm joined now by Stacey Honowitz. She's the former head of Sex Crimes and Child Abuse Unit of the Florida State Attorney's Office in Fort Lauderdale. I just get the willies, Stacey, when I think about all the things that, he's involved in, whether he's charged, yet to be charged, convicted, or about to be sentenced. But first, I need you to react on the 25-minute verdict for this guy.
Quite frankly, after seeing videotapes like that with victims' age, I'm surprised it even took that long. Actually, they should have gone back to jury foreperson and came back out. So I'm not shocked. This type of crime is so heinous, and to have jurors, that were disgusted by having to sit there and watch these videos and see what was going on. Their lives will never be the same. I can tell you that. After sitting, that's as traumatic sitting there having to watch this than it is, as being an active participant in it.
I feel like they got led out of the courtroom. They were led to their jury room. That took about 5 minutes. They were seated and told what the process is. Here's your jury forms. That took a couple minutes. They said, okay, well, why don't we go around the table once and take a vote? And that was it. And then they thought, oh, well, it's only been about 15 minutes since we walked out of the courtroom. I don't know, should we take another vote? That's sort of what it feels like to me when you have a 25-minute verdict. Let me ask you this, though. I want to go back to the thing that I was talking about before. The picture of this man, the face, and the appeal to women out there that you may be one of the women on those videotapes. How do the authorities find the women they found on the flash drives, unconscious and being raped, allegedly by that man?
Well, listen, you're leading the pack in all of this. But what you mentioned before was you said, take a look at this face. Somebody might not recognize him looking like that. The police, the feds, everybody has to get this out there. If I had a case like this, and I did have a case like this, the police sent press releases out every single day. On the news, every single night they showed the picture. Same type of thing. The picture that they had was him in custody and he was kind of beaten up. Didn't look the same way as when he raped these women or when they met him. So they had a picture of him all cleaned up, not in a jail outfit. And every single night they appealed to everybody saying, do you know him? Does he look familiar? Come forward. You can be anonymous. Here's a number to call. Here's a hotline to call. We will, guard your privacy. And that's the only thing you can really do in this case. You've got to keep it in the news. You've got to keep it out there. And eventually, maybe someone... It takes one person, Ashley. Honestly, I've always said this in all the years and all the times I've been on your show. In these types of cases, in any kind of rape cases, there's strength in numbers. And lots of times, if one victim comes forward, it drags the other ones out. It's not that bad. Somebody else is doing it. The only thing to do now is to stay on top of this, get his photo out, tell people he's in custody so that they're not nervous. Let them know that he's facing a lot of time, so that in their hearts they say to themselves, you know what, maybe it's time for me to come forward.
Okay, I only have a couple seconds left. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to ask my control room, guys, please get me a number or an email address so I can put it up on the screen after my next question to Stacey, because if anyone's watching, I want them to be able to at least contact us so we can put them in contact with the authorities. And I'm going to ask you this, Stacey. I have heard that authorities take these videos and they actually do facial recognition matching to whatever they can find online. online, people who have online profiles. They try to match them up and then track them through those profiles. But apparently a lot of his MO is to use people who are addicts, maybe homeless, women who are really, marginalized and struggling and vulnerable. Doesn't that really complicate things?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely does. I mean, you're dealing with a whole ball of bad wax in this case because they were unconscious. They were, people might say, of savory character because if they were addicts or they partied with him. So you're dealing with all of these assets. And honestly, there's lawsuits now against the police saying that they did go forward. They didn't really do all these things. But maybe now putting this pressure on, letting them know, like you are, that this guy, how these crimes are, maybe they will take the next step.
Okay, and I've got, listen, my control room, like right away, got that up on the screen. If you're watching right now and any of these faces of Shawn Williams, he sure is a chameleon, looks very different. If any of these faces look familiar to you and you may have been in a party situation with him, it's worth it. It's worth it to reach out. Banfield tips at newsnationnow.com. Banfield tips at newsnationnow.com. We can get you in touch with the appropriate authorities. Stacey, I hope the next time we're going to talk about people who've come forward and cases, rape charges that have actually attached for the anonymous, unconscious women who were, assaulted. The 3 who testified and got the conviction based on their rapes and their children's rapes in the same room, thank God for them. And Stacey, thank God for you and the work that you do. I love you, man. Thank you.
Take care, Ash. Thanks.
Stacey Honowitz joining us. Coming up, she was not very happy with lawyer number 1 or 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. And wouldn't you know it, she's not happy with the verdict either, because it was guilty. How did Sarah Boon get to be the way she is before zipping her boyfriend into a suitcase and watching him slowly die inside? Well, as it turns out, we did some digging, and we may have found some early signs. Yeah, we're playing the tapes next. She will forever be tied to a piece of video that she isn't even in. Of course, I mean this video, the clip of her late boyfriend, George Torres, squirming inside a suitcase that would end up being his coffin. All the while, Sarah is taunting him off camera. You may have come to know Sarah, I don't know, for the 9 lawyers that she burned through before her murder trial. Or maybe you've come to know her from a body cam video that showed her demanding a Dr. Pepper before being arrested for murder.
I zipped him up. We thought it was funny, and we're joking about how he was, small enough to fit inside of the suitcase.
So I don't know if it's me either wasting your time or anybody else's time, if it's even an opportunity, or if it's just something that is denied, period.
I really need something to drink. Okay, well, I got my Dr. Pepper on the counter. Okay, we'll take care of you. Give me 1 second. Okay? Please, may I have my Dr. Pepper? I am so cotton mouth right now.
Somebody else on that call to break and
it's on the counter. I can't move anything from out of the house.
Can't have your Dr. Pepper. You're being arrested. But long before Sarah Boon was Sarah Boon, she was this wide-eyed, innocent 15-year-old named Sarah Paulson, who appeared on a TV game show on Nickelodeon. So we dug into the vault to see if there were any signs back then as to who the teenager would eventually become. You be the judge. She's that one in the red shirt.
Starting off with the red team, John and Sarah, say hey! Your partner there, Sarah, likes to hang out at the mall. Now, what do you do while you're just hanging at the mall, Sarah?
Well, check out guys and spend money.
Yes, red team.
Navel orange.
Navel it is. Yeah, there you are. Starting off video challenge, round 2 is going to be playing.
I am.
You're going to play Sarah? Okay, John, hang on to the board. Sarah, which one of those 4?
Robo Army.
Robo Army. Head down to Robo Army. Come on with us, John. Robo Army. I turn around, Sarah. Ready, set, go. All right, into the zone there with you and extinguish Scorcher's flames. Go through that door. Yeah. All right, Sarah's on her way.
You cannot
flying
escape.
along. That was a great time. Hey, she's up. Bam, there's 1 ring.
Well, those carefree days are long gone, and Boon's sentencing is coming up, her hearing. But ever the contestant, or maybe still not willing to cede the spotlight, or see that her lawyers are good enough, Sarah Boon wants a brand new trial. She says that she deserves a do-over, partly because, according to Sarah, she was denied the right to a court-appointed attorney. She burned through them all. So, which I now propose to be the future definition of chutzpah. Will she get a new trial? I have no idea. But I do know that she can't be denied just because she's a pain in everybody's ass. I'll keep you posted, though, on her appeals. And coming up next, if there's one thing I hate, it is when guilty people try to frame innocent people or innocent wildlife. Up next, 4 alleged guilty people accuse a bear of doing more than $100,000 in damage to their luxury cars. But did it really? Wait till you see the wild video that they thought the insurance company would actually believe. That's coming up next. On an insurance company, something I strongly discourage. It certainly helps to be smarter than the average bear, which the people now facing fraud charges in Southern California are most assuredly not. Back in January, they filed claims for big-time damage to 3 big-ticket cars, a Rolls and 2 Mercedes. This is their story. They said a bear crawled into their whips and scratched up the seats and the doors with those big, sharp bear claws. And they even had the video to prove it. And sure enough, at first glance, it actually kind of looked like a bear climbed into their car and then climbed into the back seat and then climbed out. But with a 6-figure payout on the line, insurance companies take more than just a first glance. And when you zoom in, the bear sure looks a whole lot like a guy in a bear suit. Yeah, there's the legs, which is exactly what it turned out to be. After a quick subpoena, the investigators even found this. It's a bear suit. And it's in the suspect's house. And you see those claws? Yeah, those don't look very natural, do they? So tonight, all 4 of the alleged scammers are charged with insurance fraud and conspiracy. And make no mistake, there are no picnic baskets in jail. Quick note for you. Have I told you about the NewsNation app? I love it because you can actually listen.
This is the making of America.
I love it. It's really great. So get it. NewsNation app. Meantime, stick around because Chris Cuomo is coming up next.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Cuomo, and thank you for joining NewsNation. President-elect Trump will be speaking on our watch. We thought it was going to be right here at the top of the hour. Now we're told it'll be more about 8:20, 8:30. We'll see. When it happens, we're on it, okay? Now, hopefully, he's going to explain some of his selections for his cabinet. Is it a middle finger to the establishment? To those who didn't vote for him? To all of us? Does he expect to get some of these guys confirmed? Is this a recess appointment strategy? Now, because of some of the names and how unconventional they are, there's a new word in our vernacular, kakistocracy, government run by the least qualified. Is that fair?